What's up? What's up? What's happening? It's yours truly, Javon Freeman. With another one, I'm grateful to say I got some time on my hands. So, what we are going to do today is take a culmination of all the information that we have gathered on this channel, and then we're going to piece it all together so we can make proper assessments in live time for what may come in the future and to understand what's going on. Certainly, I recommend you get your notebooks, your pens and pencils, highlighters, flashcards, whatever you need, even your sticky notes. But I also understand if all you can do is listen, that's perfectly fine. Subconscious learning is great as well. I do want to get right into this. I don't want to waste any time. I got some videos, a lot of links, a lot of information. This is the stuff that we're going to have to get used to if we are going to progress as a species upon planet Earth, especially while traveling throughout space. Because remember, even though we're spinning around the sun itself is also moving in its own path and trajectory throughout space as well. So there's going to be energies and things that we come across that we may or may not be able to deal with. So again, I do want to get straight into this. And I also want to preface as well, pay attention to the information. Do not get so caught up in the package in which the message is delivered. The message doesn't always have to come with a bow on top. Sometimes it comes with mud and flies flying around it. It's your job to wash it off and to make do of the gift given to you by the universe. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right on into this. I think this is going to be real good. We're going to break down some videos, get comfortable. We're going to take our time with this. I'm super excited, super duper excited. Also want to say before we do get into this, add me on Instagram so you can get updates on, just my personal life, and upcoming videos that I may be doing. That is at the B.O.M experience on Instagram. The link to the YouTube is up there as well. Also want to say donate, gift to Cash App as well. Just let me know that you're from YouTube, say YouTube, and give an emoji showing how you felt about the video. It's greatly appreciated. And if not, just taking the information that, this is what I like to do. I don't say information has a price dollar on it. However, I do have a price dollar on my ability to get you this information in a way that's digestible for you. There's tons of people out there. I'll mention them throughout the video more than likely. That do this as well, that practice this and understands life from an energetic standpoint, which is very, very, very important. And it's a great asset seeing how we are in an energetic dimension. But what I'm doing here, unlike others, is giving it to you raw off the top of the head. Minor preparations, but not heavy preparations. Some people do PowerPoints. Some people have interviews and pre-questions already set up. No, I'm giving this to you raw so you can see it in live time and what the process is so you can end up implementing this for yourself and then passing it on to the next generation so we can be more aware and make much more fruitful decisions for the times to come. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on into this. We got some videos, and again, don't harp so much on the package in which the message or the gift was delivered. And these are principles to life, principles of life, also principles of the universe. A lot of that is what guides. So let's get on into this. Oh, wait. I want y'all to see me. Yep, there we go. All right, let's get into this.
Be going back to Gaza. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them. They've lived like hell. They lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living.
So this is kind of where we come to a crossroads here, because on one end, we know that Israel wants to institute the Greater Israel Project, right? We know that they want to do that. But on the other end, we also understand that Gaza is pretty much decimated, and it's going to be damn near uninhabitable for a lot of Palestinians.
We believe that, and I believe Canada is going to do a good job also. They said the same thing, and then they did something much different than what you were hearing.
Very, very difficult situation, but we're going to get it solved.
I don't think.
Now, the first thing I want you to pay attention to is the symbology. Symbology is very, very important for energy. It is everything in energy. Why? Because everything is energy within itself, and energy is expressed in the third dimension in the form of symbols. Let me just find this. Just so you can have it for yourself. All right. Yeah, I think this is a good one. I will have links down in the description for the videos, not so much the website links, only because you can Google this stuff on your own. I'm not the type of person to sit here and give you 100% resources for every single little minute thing. No, there's so much information in the world. Sources are great, but sources aren't forever. Uh, so we'll get into that. But the first thing I want you to look at is this. Energy works off of a light spectrum in which our third dimension operates off of. So what we're seeing is less than 1%. Less than 1%. It is 1% at best on its greatest day. And that means if your eyes and your brain is functioning at peak and optimal capacity. There's gamma rays, X-rays, UV rays, infrared rays, microwaves, radio waves, and so many other forms of energy that we may still have possibly yet to discover. We know this is true, that it works off of the spectrum, because we can see this with basic science projects or science tests and observations with acidics and basics, right? You have bleach, and then you have hydrochloric acid. Spectrums of energy. One is high in hydrogen energy ionization, and one is low in hydrogen ionization. So when you see certain things expressed in the third dimension, there's meaning behind it. That's why you see certain scientists or doctors saying, they try to take certain approach to get people, if they're feeling down, and say, hey, why don't you start wearing certain colored clothes, and that will brighten up your mood and things of that nature. And it does. There is an effect to that. Advertisers for food companies know this. They understand that usually if something is the color red or orange, it's more likely to be purchased, right? That's why a vast majority of snacks, and whether it's in your local grocery store or in your local convenience store, are usually the color red or some hue or tint of orange. Because the body knows that subconsciously these things give off a certain or they will provide certain forms of nutrition, and it speaks to us in the expression of light waves. All right, so this is the energy behind it. So I say that to get back to the video, Trump is wearing a blue tie. In this meeting, he is sitting there having a press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, which the video will show. However, I want you to see something very interesting. Keep in mind the blue tie.
I think people should be going back to Gaza. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them. They've lived like hell. They lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living. And the only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is because they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a...
And I just want to say as well, if you want to see the other portions of this press conference, it is on my channel as well. I reacted to it in a live stream. And getting certain breakdowns of energy and translations of what's being said. Remember, these are politicians. The word politician comes from polytricks. Polytricks is many tricks on the senses. It's not just many tricks on the eyes. It's on the senses. So what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you hear, what you touch. That is the essence of polytricks, politicians, which is polytricksters, which is a derivative of debating. Debating is based in factual information. Debate, if you break down those words, it gets you down to factual information and the back and forth of the information. Let's get back into this.
Beautiful alternative that's safe.
Okay, that's debatable. So this is kind of where we come to a crossroads here, because on one end, we know that wants to institute the Greater Israel Project, right? We know that they want to do that. But on the other end, right? We also understand that Gaza is pretty much fucking decimated, and it's going to be damn near uninhabitable for a lot of Palestinians. So, though I see the humanitarian relief that comes with sending them to Egypt and Jordan, what's going to end up happening is they'll never be able to return, if we're going to be honest here. Right? And this is what leads a lot of people to believe, matter of fact, that this was the goal all along. There's many people that had their tinfoil hats on saying they're toppling Gaza like this so they can rationalize taking it over. They're going to try to get these guys.
And he's absolutely right. There have been generations and generations of people that have lived and died speaking upon these things. I also want you to get a nice idea of where this location is and which they're talking about on the map. So Israel is down here. The people of Israel sit right at the cusp between Cairo and Jordan, and Cairo, Egypt at that. The major issue is that Israel isn't liked by any of these surrounding states. Majority has it. Some of these countries have bent the knee to America because of our war, power, force, and things of that nature. But there's a specific reason as to why. Most of these countries are not so much Muslim, but the principle and practice belief is very core to the nature of behavior upon the planet. So in Israel, one of the major distinctions is that they practice loaning or interest, right? That is highly, highly, highly frowned upon in these Arab nations like Libya, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. And it's no coincidence that with America being in bed with Israel, these are the countries we have gone back and forth with. But now here's the other portion of this. These Arab nations know this innately due to melanated principles. However, even though all of the human race has melanin, the degree and expression of it is slightly different. What we know is that the ancestors of Jewish people, or those that are now part of, the bloodline of the modern day Israeli or modern day Jewish person, actually comes from a long bloodline of people that have been warring throughout Western and Eastern Europe, right? So what these people, no disrespect, again, we're looking at the factual information, is that Western Europe has always been in the crux of war. I mean, for a very long time. Let's see. No. Right. So this is just a hint at the Dark Ages from the 5th to 14th century, which is years 400 to 1300, just about, and that's in Eastern Europe, or what is known as the Western Roman Empire, right? But within that, the early Middle Ages of Western Europe, characterized by its perceived decline in culture, learning, and economic stability, that's a part of the Dark Ages. When it says Western Europe, that decline in culture, learning, and economic stability is another way of saying warring times. I didn't get the link up there, but yeah, this area from as far up as Belarus, Lithuania, as far south as Ukraine, parts of Georgia, Bulgaria, even into Turkey, has always been territory that has been under constant war from the Persians, Ottomans. Always been territory that has been under constant war. It has always been a land that has always had its attempts. Persians, Ottomans take over and use the resources that the land has always been land that has always had its and these are where these people come from, and throughout time they move south, and this is where we're going to get resources that the land's provide. Let's stay tuned. So, and these are where these people come from, and throughout time they move south, and this is where we're going to get into other things. Along with all the things that people say about certain people, the information was important. And right now, Myron Gaines is speaking to us something that's very important. I also want to say this too. Along with all the things that people say about certain people, the information was important. And right now, Myron Gaines is speaking to something that's very important.
Right? And like I said before, Egypt and Jordan, we give them a lot of aid to play nice with Israel, chat. Maybe Biden didn't have the balls to tell them you're going to accept these refugees. But Trump will. And if this tariff situation doesn't show you guys that Trump is willing to put countries in very bad spots economically, to include even hurting ourselves, I think more than likely he can probably bully Egypt and Jordan into taking these refugees. Now, my opinion on it, I'm split. Because half of me is like, okay, these guys don't really have a home to go back to. It's going to take years to get Gaza to back where it was at. People are going to be suffering in the meantime. Israel's always going to have, oversight of it. It's always going to be occupied. Do you really want to be in an open air prison in Gaza, or do you want to go to Jordan and Egypt where you'll have significantly more sovereignty, where Israel doesn't rule over you? Now, us over here in 2020 hindsight, United States of America, we're like, yeah, dude, it's a no-brainer. Just go to Egypt, right? Like, just go to Jordan. It's not that big a deal. Trump is going to get you guys in. But if you've lived somewhere your entire life, but not just you, your mom, your grandma, her mom, her grandma, like, we're talking generations upon generations, guys, lived on this land. It's not going to be as easy to just pick up and go. It really isn't. So, and it's 2 million people. It's a lot of people, bro. Though I do like the fact that being given refugee status will help end the suffering almost immediately. I also am sensitive to the fact that a lot of these people probably want to stay in their homes. But their homes have been destroyed. Something like 70% of Gaza has been absolutely leveled. So we'll see what happens. But
okay, now this is what I wanted to get to. In this, you see Donald Trump is wearing a blue tie. Benjamin Netanyahu is wearing a red tie. Okay, now very important. This is what I wanted to get. Showing you the duality. Donald Trump is wearing a blue tie. Benjamin Netanyahu is wearing not just the government but the politicians. This is very important. Why? Because it's showing you the duality in which our government is playing, and it's not just the government, known as politicians. In the color spectrum, there are, mind you, the primary colors are red. Office, he wore a what? A red and yellow tie, also known as purple. In the color spectrum, there when you put red and blue together, colors you get the combination of purple, which is supposed to be harmony and balance. Why? Because red is when you put red and blue together, is supposed you get the combination of purple, which is supposed to be harmony and balance. Why? Because red is pinpoint, forward, front of the line. Red is supposed to be more tranquility, understanding, empathy, behind the scenes, leadership. Pinpoint, forward, front of the line. Yellow is just that supposed to be more tranquility, understanding, empathy. Because now if you add yellow to blue, you get green. You add yellow to red, you get orange, and things of that nature. Yellow is just that nice color that's in between. And this fluctuates between both. Because now if you add yellow to blue, you get green. You add yellow to red, you get orange, and things of that nature. Being shown. He's playing, and this is sides, and this is something that now a lot of people took notice to. Why it's during the inauguration, symbols are being shown. Putting his hands. He's playing both sides. And this is something that on the Bible, a lot of people took notice to. So during the inauguration, they said, "Well, hold on, why isn't Trump putting his hand January 20th of 2017 on the Bible? And his hand is on the Bible, and he's wearing a red tie, symbolizing Republican, we can see which is clearly in January 20th, which is also of 2017. His hand is on the Bible, and he's wearing a red tie, symbolizing Republican, which is a masculine masculine nature, which is also at the age of representing also masculine an expression of mind that we are masculine, traveling feminine nature, space, and at the age of Aquarius is also truth, honesty, principles, an expression of mind. Metaphorically standing on masculine, deceit is feminine nature, that is masculine nature, truth, honesty, principles. His hand is on the metaphorically standing on your square, and a lot of people miss this because energy says a lot, behaviors in nature. These are expressions of energy. His hand is on the expression of energy, right? This is very important. A lot of people miss this because energy says a lot, behavior says a lot. These are expressions of energy. Red is an expression of energy. Got a lot of tabs for you. In that same, or a year later, let me see. I've got a lot of tabs for you. Oh, okay, yeah. In that same year, Trump goes out to the Western Wall, which is, I believe, Israel. In that same year,
I'm not too
same
sure.
year,
Don't
Trump
quote
goes
me on it.
out. However, he
To
does go
the
to
Western
what is
Wall,
a
which is, I believe, in
Jewish nation, and you see
Israel.
him wearing a yarmulke.
I'm not too
Right?
sure.
That
Don't quote me
yarmulke is
on it.
very
However, he
important.
does go to
And you
what is
also
a
will see him
Jewish nation,
and
what
you
could
see
be
him
the Torah.
wearing a yarmulke.
Middle East tour,
Right? That
He's
yarmulke is
holding
very
on to
important.
the
And you
Torah.
also will
Once
see
you
him
come in contact
holding
with
on
certain
to
energies, you
what could be the
cannot
Torah mixed with other
Middle
energies,
East
or
tour,
you will
right?
have what
He's
is
holding
conflict,
on to it,
right?
the Torah.
So, or you'll
Once
have
you
a
come in
watering
contact
down
with
process,
certain energies,
and
you
then
cannot
it defeats the
mix
purpose
with
of
other
what you're trying to
energies,
get
or
done.
you will
So
have
imagine
what
you
is
take
conflict,
bleach and you take
right?
hydrochloric acid,
Or you will have
and
a
you put them
watering
together.
down
You
process.
just created
and
water.
then
It
far
defeats
into
the purpose of what you're
spectrum,
trying to get done.
getting
So
boiled
imagine
down
you
and
take bleach and
diluted.
you
So
take
now the
hydrochloric
purpose of
acid and you put them
what
together.
you just
Each of those
created
things we're
water
supposed to
far
do is
into
now
the energy
nullified, and it
spectrum,
can't be done. You've
getting
reached a
boiled down
standstill.
and diluted. So now the purpose of
So
the
people
purpose
say,
of
well, what does this have to do with
each of those
anything?
things we're
Pay
supposed to
attention.
do is now nullified,
He's
and it
taking,
can't be done.
he's now
Now
practicing the faith and practices
so
of a
people say, well, what does this have to
religion
do with
or
anything?
a group of
Pay
people
attention.
that have throughout history been known to
he's
cause
now
or be
practicing
at
the
the
faith
forefront
and
or to
practices
be a
of
common
a
denominator
religion
in a lot of
or
issues.
a group of people
So now
that
we
have
move forward in
throughout history
time been known to cause or be at the forefront or to be a common denominator in a lot of issues. So now we move forward in time. It's one of these. Okay. No, that's not the one. See, even JD Vance is wearing the red tie. He's wearing more of a purple expression, showing that he's playing both sides. You can't necessarily drain the swamp when you're part of it. However, he is doing what he can more of a purple expression to reset certain things, showing that he's playing both sides. You can't necessarily drain the swamp when you're a part of it. However, he is doing what he can to reset certain things. Right here, this is after the fact. This is now a couple years later. Okay, so I guess it's the same one. What's this? Yeah, see, right here. This is after the fact. This is now a couple years later, 8 years later in that ballpark, maybe more. What's this? 17 to 2025. 8 years later in that ballpark. 8 years later, he doesn't put his hand on that Bible. To 2025. Now, this lady right here does represent something very specific, but we're not going to get into that. Other channels have gotten into 8 years later, he doesn't put his hand on that Bible. Now, this lady right here does represent something very specific, but we're not going to get into that. Other channels have gotten into it. She arrived after the fact and what the universe has to show that I double back to this and explain it for you. That would be great, but no. Now, some people have sat there and said, well, he didn't see her show up. She arrived after the fact and whatnot. In a situation like that, we know as human beings, once something gets too close to you, your senses are alerted to where that somebody's near you. Even if you're focused on something, you chose a situation like that. Now, you know there are reasons for that. You cannot go back to putting your hand on the Bible because there is a specific purpose and job duty that you were meant to fulfill. Now, again, there are reasons for that. You cannot go back to putting your hand on the Bible because there is a specific purpose and job duty that you were meant to fulfill. The Jewish practice once you start taking part of these practices. Christianity, and now mind you, Catholicism or the Jewish practice of Christianity against Christianity, even if it's Catholicism or other sub factions of Christianity. Let's get back into this, because we'll double back into that information as well.
Ooh, good question. Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza?
While the rebuilding was happening.
It would be my hope that we could do something really.
So the question is, interesting question. Would they have the right to return after Gaza's rebuilt? Let's see how Trump answers this.
Nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to it would be my
Have the right to
Peter.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was
It
happening?
would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest.
See, that right there is deception. I'm going to run it back for you so you can hear it.
Do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why?
Build something that really nice and really good to where they wouldn't want to return. How would that work? If you're going to build something nice, wouldn't people want to really nice and really good to where they destroyed and it got rebuilt for me? How would that work? If you're going to build something nice,
people want to return to that? If my house got destroyed and it got rebuilt, and now that is nicer than what it wearing was. Yeah, tie, which is showing you I'm in the role of deceit, in sly activity, poly tricks, passiveness, and now that is deception. He's wearing a blue tie, which is showing as opposed to Benjamin Netanyahu is a sly activity, passiveness, not so much aggressive, outright or forward, as opposed to what Benjamin Netanyahu is expressing.
And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, and it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area, but you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back? They've experienced nothing but death and destruction.
The answer is no. They will not go back because that's going to be Israeli land. There you go, guys. The answer is no. Because Gaza is going to turn into Israel. It's going to turn into waterfront property for Israel, bro.
Yep.
What will you do then? Well, I don't think they're going to tell me no. I don't think they're going to tell me.
Hold on. Let's rewind that.
Well, I don't think. What will you do then? Well, I don't think they're going to tell me no. I don't think they're going to. What will you do? I think they're going to tell Biden no, and I think they're going to tell other people no. So you think it will
Bro, holy.
happen at the end? I think there's a good chance. Yeah. How many people are you thinking about?
I called it, didn't I? See? He's going to put an enormous amount of pressure on these neighboring Arab countries to take these people in. Right? I told y'all. I didn't watch this press conference. I told y'all he was going to do that.
Now, the other thing you also have to understand, too, is that this is only possible when there's an affinity for the same destination. Now, the other thing where you also have to understand too is that people that work together with this is only possible when there's an affinity for the same destination. So this is where you see the be like groups of people that work together mean that you are part of that circle. And we're coming to white people, or a lot more people come to understanding that just because an Asian to be like you're part of a certain Russians doesn't mean that you are part of that white and black. White people don't like white people anyway. Black people don't like black people, even within Asians. But we see that there's an affinity. Russians as well. Candace Owens, white and black is very poor terminology anyway. Things that have already been spoken about throughout time. That we see that there's an affinity, and that a lot of these people, Candace Owens, she's done a lot of research to put on her channel things that have already been spoken about throughout time. That people have already been researching. That a lot of these people that come through is that with Donald Trump, he is our U.S. government have direct ties to this faith practicing of the practices of the only issue is that with Donald Trump, he is an exception. However, because he has brought into the practices be accepted, indoctrinated, or indoctrinated into doing what the practices of this faith group by he can then be accepted, indoctrinated, or indoctrinated into doing what is
first thing he's going to bargain with is I give you. You better take these Palestinians
practicing people.
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007.
Now, this is very important. They're saying there's about 1,000,007 plus people left. This can be denoted as almost inaccurate depiction because you gotta after they're saying there's about 1,000,007 plus people left. This can be denoted as almost that inaccurate depiction because you gotta after war people displaced and looking for someone to go. You can get a very good head count. We know prior to this that there were at least on a low end 2.2 million people looking for shelter. how many people, if you do the math, are no longer with that here. Amount of people? I'm going to show you 1.7 get into this. Looking for home, looking for shelter, right? And this is where how many people, if you do the math, are no longer here. Don't do your own research. I'm going to show you this. Sometimes they don't want you to do your own research because, right? And this is where doing your own research is pretty good. And they say don't do your own research, but a lot of times they don't want you to do your own research because these groups law of the universe. The first law is that all things in motion will navigate the energy from coming back into the universe or coming back for every action. There's an equal and opposite reaction. The universe. The first law is that all things in motion will stay in motion. The second law is things that have already been found out. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The third law is centripetal force. Long before certain groups of people started putting their names on it. These are things that have already been found out, understood, and studied upon with human beings have been here for hundreds of thousands of years. The people started putting their names on it. It blows a lot of people minds. Remember, for almost certain expressed 20,000 years, human beings have been here for hundreds of thousands of years already. A lot of people, it blows a lot of people's minds. Understanding of the human species. 20,000 years, hoodies proper civilization and intellect and understanding doesn't go past ancient Egypt, but people's understanding of the human species. It takes a lot of civilization and intellect and understanding doesn't go past ancient intelligence to create these things, and there wasn't a need for utilizing to this very day. It takes a lot of understanding and a lot of little intelligence to create these things, in which we are still utilizing to this very day. We may put new designs, little trinkets on them, something that covers our legs, ornaments and whatnot. But our shoes aren't even the quality of what they used to be. That our torso and our appendages, but something that covers our legs. Look at the math on some of this stuff. Our shoes aren't even the quality of what they used to be. That I think I'll go into in another video. But let's as look at the math on some of this estimated population of Palestine is 5.4 million. The population breakdown is 2.1 million, and the estimated population of Palestine. This is AI Palestine is 5.4 million. The population breakdown is 2.1 million in the Gaza Strip. Change it, however, and now this is AI information that's being going up now. Again, the people that control these servers from that age they can control these Aquarius. Change it, however, that being said, this is the issue that they're going up against because we have our own technology and our own hands in the proper direction in which our ancestors and Aquarius. So with that being said, we're not able to do unless they will combat certain narratives so we can point ourselves in the proper direction in which our ancestors and forefathers and foremothers were not able to do unless they were truly able to slip through the cracks in the major news. So now when we get into it, we start looking at the accurate depiction. We just heard Donald Trump see it's about 1.7 million people are major news. But if you look at majority of these articles, you don't even give you the full accurate depiction. We just heard Donald Trump say it's about 1.7 million people. That doesn't give you accurate. But if you look at majority of these articles, you don't even have to go into it. At it and we're saying, well, damn, where did all these people go? We have yet to go 1,000 people, and that doesn't give you accurate math. It's showing you. So now we're looking at it and we're saying, well, damn, where did all these people go? We have yet to go into the article, and maybe 41% descriptions is showing you, hold on, there's a high number of people that some type of and maybe this might maybe 41% higher than official figures. All right, that's good. But again, we're still haven't even gone into the majority of these platforms. Maybe this might be the truth, and we're looking at it in live time. Let's go back. Gaza Strip. But again, still haven't even gone into it. Majority of these platforms aren't going to give you the actual numbers, and we're looking at it in live time. Let's go back. Population. Gaza Strip. 2.1 million people. All of a sudden, you're sitting here telling me that not a single news article. They had an increasing population. More than 100 people have passed on. Now, all of a sudden, you're sitting here telling me that not a single news article is incorrect. Can sit here and tell you, more than 100 people have passed on. No, something is off here.
But I think
something is incorrect.
And October 7th, chat, just so you guys know, this is coming from Trump's mouth, by the way. He said talking. What? They're 1.7, 1.8? Gaza was 2 million before October 7th. You guys do the math on how many people got fucking killed, man.
Yep.
I don't think you guys caught that. Let's rewind that real quick. Hold on.
Probably 1.7 million people.
Yep.
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1.7 million people, 1.7 million, maybe 1.8 million. But I think all of them. I think
now let's do the math. 1,800,000 people at most we've seen was 64,000. Now, let's do the math. Doesn't even get you into 1.9. 1,800,000 hundreds of thousands of people have been killed. With 64,000. All of that couldn't have been soldiers. That still doesn't even get you into 1.9. So hundreds of thousands of people have been killed.
That there's roughly 1.7 to 1.8 million. Guys, someone in the chat corrected me, said 2.2 million. Even better. So he's admitting it's 1.7, 1.8. We know that Gaza was at least, at the lowest level, 2 million. At least. Some people in the chat are telling me 2.2. So what he's inadvertently done here is he's proven what we said for over a year now. That they've killed an enormous amount of innocent people. That's why the world hates them right now. And that's why I told you guys when I was giving you my monologue earlier.
They have to tell you this because it circumnavigates the energy that will come back to them. It's like, here's the equivalent to it, right? Imagine there's a bully. They have to tell you this as getting bullied. Because the bully circumnavigates the energy that will come back to them. It's like, here's the equivalent to it, right? Imagine there's a bully and somebody that's getting bullied. If the bully doesn't tell the person, I'm going to punch you in your face, and you just punch them in the face, the bully is wrong. That is then your fault because of nature. If you were or in your capable mind state to do something and you don't do anything about it, and you let it happen, that is because a lot of people like you were in your right. So in your capable mind state to do something about it, you now have to say this is a person, because a lot of people like to go in conversation and the nuances don't have shift the principle. Say hypothetically, you're however the principle applies to the general body of people. That's another conversation, and the nuances will then shift the principle slightly. However, the principle applies to the general body of people.
They've killed 100 to 200,000. Because they're finding bodies every day. A lot of people are buried under the rubble, chat. Like, Gaza is extremely densely populated, and there's buildings everywhere. So when they knock these buildings down, people are getting crushed under the rubble, so they can't find the body. So they have a lot of missing people. So what you guys just saw just there, literally it kind of concedes the fact that we're talking about 100,000 plus gone.
Gone. And that's men, women, and children. Right? These are people that don't... Okay, gone. And that's... men, women, and scientifically children. Or theoretically, right? These are people that because what propaganda in our hemisphere doesn't tell you is that unless you're speaking to scientifically indigenous tribes out in those regions, because those indigenous what propaganda in our hemisphere doesn't tell you is that unless you're speaking to people have made their way indigenous tribes out in those regions. Those indigenous tribes can tell you, yes, the first time we've ever seen these people was at this time in time, but the people have made their way here at this point in time, and that point in time. See what I'm saying? So we know the first time we've ever seen these people was at this time in time, but the largest migration groups was at this time in bodies of land. See what I'm saying? So we know that even when these people were first being the grand witnessed in certain bodies of land, later on, it's recent for us, but it's very later on recent in the grand human experience to where we are now in our later on. It's recent for us, but it's very later on in the majority of that time human experience of people where we are now in our point in time, right? Again, like I said, from the Mongols, the Ottomans, the Persians, and majority of that time, these groups of people had constant infighting. Even I believe the Gaulics, again, like I said, from the Mongols, the Ottomans, the Persians, warring in these nations, warring in these land territories, trying to fight for even I believe the Gaulics known at a certain point. That's why warring in these nations or warring in these land territories, thing that trying to fight for these resources and is never known true peace. That's why victory writes history was such. However, the only reason why Pax thing that achieved was because the Romans kept the victor to going to war, expanding territories. You don't get to expand territories without Pax Romana was achieved was because the Romans kept, and then you force people into going to war, expanding territories. You don't get to expand territories without going to war, fighting and killing for these territories. And then you force people under your rule of practice and things of that nature.
The Israeli media tries to minimize and say it's between 10 and 15,000
every day.
In the next years?
Say it.
Building settlements, Jewish settlements back in Gaza in the next year. Do you support this idea?
All right. That was pretty good. I want to get into another piece. Just another example of how that we're supposed to look at these energies. I want to get into another piece. Keep going on the time and whatnot. Just another example of how I told you we're supposed to look at these energies. I also want you to get back to your day on the time and whatnot as well. Now, this one is not something that we will be looking at in its totality. I had just looked at it, caught a small part of it. But it's going to get back into what we were already speaking on.
And we got a briefing this morning about how each of our offices can receive information from whistleblowers, protect their confidentiality, and help use those important voices to shine a light on these violations.
Recognize now the chairman, the ranking member, soon to be chairman of the Natural Resources Committee, Representative Hoffman.
Well, thank you, folks, and good morning. Happy to join my colleagues here in pushing back against Elon Musk and his fake officials, his tech bros that are rummaging through our most sensitive data without authority in violation of the law. And I'm so pleased that we're beginning to litigate and confront this in the courts, that there's this great public awakening that's happening and the outrage is building. And here in Congress,
now, we're taking it to a shallow wind, but this shallow wind is going to lead us back into the deep end of things. What we're looking at here is Liberal Party, Democratic Party, however you really want to denounce it, sitting there saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is illegal, unconstitutional. No, that is not the case. They're playing on your energy so they can then take it away from you, take your attention, and then use it for whatever they have going on. What is happening in the Republican Party is that no, Donald Trump is not paying per se Elon Musk. Elon Musk is acting as a third party. So, for example, I have a car, I need some work done on it. I don't have the time to do it myself, but I have a friend that wants to do the work on the car and says, hey, you don't even have to pay me. However, what I do need from you is that I'm able to use it in my portfolio. So if I get the job and certain people call and they say, yes, has this person worked on your car? What was the results? You tell them, yes, be honest, and let them know that I did a good job. If I did do a good job, or, whatever the case may be, that is what's taking place. Elon Musk is acting as an advisory group. This is where Donald Trump is working on our side to remove certain people out of the swamp. But again, it's hard to do so when you're a part of it. The only way you can drain the swamp is from the outside. Right? How can you drain a swimming pool from inside of the swimming pool? You would have to reach something from outside of the swimming pool to drain the swimming pool. Same metaphor, same principle. But what they're doing here is they're playing on your emotions, and then they also are playing on immigrants that are understanding just how conniving politicians can be, and they play on human nature because they understand majority of humans aren't taking the time to even understand themselves, to become self-aware of themselves. And this is why we say you got to stay prayed up, you got to get back into nature, you got to eat proper foods, and then as the universe tells you, okay, you can then start doing other things, you will then basically understand that was your rite of passage, and the energy is then flowing through you, or aka being in tune, being in a flow state, and it is allowing you to then take part in other aspects of what life has to offer.
My colleagues and I stand ready to do our part to say no to this outrageous attack on our democracy and our personal rights. So we learned this week that Elon and his tech bros, these young people in hoodies who don't have security clearances, they're fake officials, that they crashed through the doors of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. These are folks whose mantra in the private sector is go fast and break things. And they decided to go fast and break things this week at NOAA. And so, people need to understand that this is an agency that does really important work that millions of Americans depend on every day, although they don't always realize how much they depend on it. It is the home of critical scientific and regulatory systems that protect our safety in important ways. And this starts to make good on yet another aspect of Project 2025, something that I spent much of last year warning about. Trump has promised, his Project 2025 agenda was very explicit about this, to dismantle and privatize NOAA, forcing Americans to pay for things like government.
Now, before we get into the next person, I want you to understand why this is such an issue for our polytricksters, aka politicians. Why? You don't want it. Even if we in the American school system, we're taught about, again, Julius Caesar and various other people who at young ages have done great things. They tell you this why? Because if you allow a young person to get in, more than likely a young person is going to want to make a proper change, which will lead to the betterment for a majority or a larger concentration of people. As you get older, you understand that you no longer have that pull because your time becomes fewer and fewer and fewer because you're on the closer end to inevitable departure from the third dimensional reality, or in other words, death. I didn't want to sound so morbid about it, so I took the long route. Point is, though, it's not a bad thing that these guys are doing this. And then the question is, you will sit there and talk about, yes, this is what's going on in history. People at young ages have been able to do great things, but we can't allow that in today's time because they're too young. You see, it's the tricks on the mind, the contradictory nature of it then puts you in a state of confusion, and the devil lies in the details. When you're confused, you don't know details. And this is why I say you got to also look at the cliches and understand the principles of life before anything. So when you're looking at these things, you will be able to translate and understand what's really being said between the lines.
So with that, I'm handing off to
Rivas. I want to thank Congressman Ivey for being here, Congresswomen Rivas, Schakowsky, and Chu for joining us. I think we'll all be available for questions going forward from here. But just as a closing message, we are committed to a government by and for the people. Elon Musk and Donald Trump believe that you go out and work to make them rich. And House Republicans seem to believe that you pay your taxes so that Elon Musk and Donald Trump can also get rich. We know that that's deeply wrong. And if we harness our collective power, seem to believe that you pay your taxes so that Elon Musk and Donald Trump can also get rich.
That's not true. The whole thing about it, Donald Trump, even right now, is campaigning that, or not right now, but when he was campaigning, was no taxes, trying to get rid of taxes. The Democratic Party was sitting there, the Progressive Party, in which we're listening to right now, was sitting there saying, listen, we're going to increase the tax burden, but that money is going to go to small business owners, which inevitably is going to be in the form of loans, and loans is going to go back into the pockets because of the interest rates of these said politicians. Yet again, see, and this is why I'm telling you, everything I said before is going to lead back into itself, the completion or coming around full circle. Even right now, even though they seem like they're on opposing sides, they're still wearing the color purple. But there's also other things that go into it that make the color purple more honorable or dishonorable and things of that nature. Why? Because we all have our own intentions. However, what we're seeing here is that from their point of view, they're now having to point the finger to say, listen, they're doing the exact thing that we were trying to do, but because they're doing it outright, it's wrong. And we were doing it behind closed doors, even though it's wrong, because it was closed doors, it was more behind closed doors, it was more right. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the other side is doing exactly what they're doing. However, it's the game, yet again, of poly tricks on many senses.
We know that that's deeply wrong. And if we harness our collective power, not just as a progressive caucus.
Listen to the words he's saying, harness the collective power. So playing on the emotions of other. What is motion? Emotion, energy in motion. That is emotion. If we harness that motion and you give it to us, we can then take it and turn it into a direction, whether it was a direction you intended for it to or not. But the energy is now ours or theirs in the case in which he's speaking of.
But as Democrats, and then we put pressure on just a few Republicans to grow a spine, we can fire Elon Musk. Thank you all.
And again, how can you fire somebody that's not a part of the organization? He's a third party outside company. If I told my friend, yes, you can work on the car, how can I fire him? I can just simply say, I don't want you doing this anymore. But I mean, outside of that, if I don't say that, he's going to keep working on the car because I gave him the right to. You see what I'm saying? Or even if it's not him working on the car, he can sit there and say, well, look, I wrote down a list of all the things that could be worked on. Here's my advice. You make the decision whether you do the work or you ask me to do it or you hire somebody else in your government to do it. That's a more accurate depiction of it. I try to keep it simple for you, but let's get back into this.
Well, we're ready to take some questions from you. Yeah, go ahead. And please state your name and the outlet, and then we may just defer it over to some of the folks you haven't heard speak yet.
Arthur Jones II at ABC News. Yesterday, there's some strong condemnation for the Trump administration using school vouchers to enrich billionaires like Elon. Can you expound on that a little bit?
The House Republicans in the Education Committee are talking about taking dollars away from public schools and using that to make their private business friends money, because public schools it's hard to steal their money and get it for yourself. But if you shut down our nation's public schools and then have these voucher scams, you can send hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money to private companies that then continue to donate to Republican campaigns. And so voters see through that grift. We're going to stand up for that. Go ahead.
Hey, Ryan with Fox News Radio. Elon Musk put out a statement yesterday saying that DOGE will make rapid safety upgrades to the air traffic control system. Do you have any thoughts on him getting involved in that space?
Elon Musk crashes and breaks everything he buys. He thinks he can buy our government. We cannot allow him to crash and break our air traffic control system.
Now, also understand, too, there is something that has to be said where even though the overall behavior is a net negative of which our politicians are working on our behalf, it doesn't mean within that overall net negative, there isn't some positive gain into it. Remember how I told you, please refer to other videos that I've posted, that the metaphorical body, a triangle of which there's the people, business, and government have to balance each other out. Right now, they're trying to show to the people per se that business is overpowering government, and that's going to overpower the people at some point. That is basically what we're seeing right now. This is that transition phase from the people being at the bottom point of the triangle, business and government being on top, and it transitioning to the people being on top, and then there's government and business supporting the people. And that is inevitably where we're headed. Is going to take a whole lot longer. I'll show you that in a little bit.
Look at what happened when he bought Twitter. It just started crashing. Again, not a big deal if your app doesn't open one day. It is a really big deal if Americans don't know whether or not their air safety is protected. So this is, again, another instance where Elon Musk thinks he knows better than everybody else in the world. But in fact, he doesn't know anything about how to...
The minority to push back against Elon Musk?
There's many we could do. Yesterday, we did have a vote in the Oversight Committee to subpoena Elon Musk and have him come speak. And we only lost that vote by one vote. So we can make sure that if we lock arms as Democrats, and the Progressive Caucus is often at the forefront of making sure that we have Democratic unity on strong positions. If we lock arms as Democrats, we just need to pressure, in that case, just one Republican to have a spine and be willing to hear from Elon Musk.
See,
again,
and this is this is where the poly tricks come into play. And this is why I could stop it here. You don't have to hear so much more. There are certain things that the universe will express to you that will tell you the direction in which you're headed. He keeps saying, listen, as a Democrat, the Republicans will say, as a Republican, those are further derivatives of what you truly are. You're just an earth being, the same way a lion is another earth being, right? That's the most derived title you should be giving yourself. A human being is even more derived of an earth being per se. Yeah, well, it is. It's another derivative of earth being. But it separates you from the entire planet. So now your energy is being funneled in a much more specific way as opposed to out into the universe. And people keep forgetting that the planet Earth is already small in retrospects to the cosmos as is. Now when you give yourself a certain title, just say, yeah, I'm a mechanic, or I'm a doctor. You've made yourself that much smaller. And the fact that you're getting money for it is supposed to make you feel like, or manipulate your energy so you think and express yourself in a manner that you're much bigger than what you are, and that's not the case. See, all of this yet again falls back into the conversation of energy. Just sit tight, allow yourself to digest, sit back and observe the information. So now I want to get into this. Why is this such a big deal? Well, because our politicians are the same group of people that have taken place in these behaviors that has got us down the road we're in. So the movie Flight Risk, as you just heard the politicians speaking about the aviation and Elon Musk and whatnot, there's the energy repeats itself and everything is cyclical. So you can travel in time through numbers, and even symbols and letters represent a specific number, right? So now in this movie, the certain main characters, Mark Wahlberg plays a character named Booth, all right? And where is it at? Should be, yeah, Daryl Booth. Now the importance of that is what? The last president that was, or one of the last presidents, so I got a lot going on up here. One of the presidents that were assassinated was killed by a man named John Wilkes Booth, right? So now what do we see here? In this movie, the people per se is trying to, or you can say the security, trying to find another energetic representation of it, is trying to transport a witness. This witness acts as the president in a energetic, manifestational, or metaphorical plateau. Why? Because he was working for two separate parties. He was working on the party of a business, and then he's working on the party of the government. That's how witnesses work, right? And now these businesses are supposed to be dirty businesses, improper businesses, dishonorable businesses, illegal businesses. That's where you get the whole cartel situation, right? So now in the movie, John Wilkes Booth does his job. He kills the president. What happens in the movie? The guy doesn't necessarily die. He does get hurt. He does get wounded. I don't want to spoil it too much. However, I'm trying to give you the important parts of it. And he was given morphine. He ends up going into a deep sleep. Sleep is not death. However, it is the cousin of death. Sleep is the cousin of death, something like that. It gets you to death. Or the equivalent to death in some natures, because you have to lower your vibration down to almost undetectable to fall asleep. And in the movie, he fell in such a deep sleep, he missed a whole lot of drama that was going off metaphorically, or entered a depth to where he missed a lot of things that took off. And when he woke up, when he woke up, he came back truly a new person. He repented before he fell asleep, asked for forgiveness. And okay, so now the security, which would have been the metaphorical representation of government, was acting also as a median per se towards whatever higher power there was, or whatever higher power you choose it to be. So once you repent, the old you must die so you can be renewed, or come back anew so you can do better in time. That is, and pretty much yet again, another energetic principle. Say we take the basics, bleach, and then we take an acid, hydrochloric acid. Bleach would then be your positive side of the spectrum. You would then have to water down the acid, let it get to a state of neutrality or zero, right, as opposed to negative 14 or 7, and then it will be at 0, whatever the case. However the numbering on the spectrum works, it's been a long time. You have to get it down to the median 7, and then on the pH scale, and then slowly build it back up into a point of being at 14, which would then be on the positive end of the spectrum, right? So now what does it have to do with everything? Donald Trump is in that position right now. So throughout time, we are going to start seeing a transition. Why? This is the age of Aquarius, which is a patriarchal or a more masculine, for energetic lack of terminology for many to understand. I try to keep this as simple as possible for the everyday person. This is the transition phase. However, he's not there yet. Sometimes when you're, it's like a car. When you're trying to get into a certain speed, if you're trying to get past 100 miles an hour, sometimes you have to break back down to 90 to get around another car. You might have to come all the way back down to 20 so you don't crash, and then speed back up again or come back down because you may have a turn or curve. These are the energetic manifestations that are taking place in live time. So what we're also seeing is that the group of people that are fighting, right, where Donald Trump was wearing his hold on. Where Donald Trump is wearing that blue tie, you see him double back. But now also you see hold on. This one. Okay, yeah, it's the same one. You see here in his first term, he didn't wear any purple tie. He was steamrolling so much so, and he opposed the party that was in place so much that it caused a lot of friction, and that's when he ended up getting all the lawsuits and all those things that try to deteriorate him into a state of water, breaking him down. He was so extreme from the farther extreme party, it tried to break him down. These are energetic manifestations. So what does all this have to do with everything? This same group of people have always been at this play. So now we sit here and you say, okay, all of this goes on. This is the same cycle that has been expressed throughout time. However, the more predominant energy is now an energy of truth, or lack of better terminology, righteousness or honorability or integrity, principles, pillars, foundation, structure, discipline, right? Throughout time, these same faith practicing group of people have caused hectic throughout many places. In this region. See, so where they're now at here, they're everywhere. It's not just it's a black person, it's white. No. It's a faith practicing group of people. You can be anywhere practicing any faith. So throughout history, and we know this to be true, and this is why there's such a stink, and Candace Owens has so much going at her with the whole blood libel, BS, blah, blah, blah. Throughout time, this same faith practicing group of people have been kicked out of many places for the things that they are still practicing today. Right? And it goes way back, the first written times that we can see just on Wikipedia, to keep things simple and easy, is 700 BCE, 700 years before the theoretical birth of Christ, right? Or theological birth of Christ. And even throughout time, throughout all of Europe, Northern Africa, and a lot of people miss this landmass here, right? This landmass up from Turkey to Georgia, Azerbaijan, some of Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and some of Pakistan. A lot of that landmass, the vegetation, the insectual life, the insects, the animals are more accustomed and more native to the continental landmass of Africa than what is of Asia, India, and things of that nature, or Russia. So these people that have always been warring in this time frame have now gotten over into what is, or what was denoted as the West Indian Company. Remember, there's India here in the Eastern Hemisphere. However, there are two Indians. There's Indians from India, and then there's Indians who were the indigenous of the Americas. All right. The English language is complex, but it's very simple. Simple things are very complex for everyday people because everyday people make things more complex than what they need to be. English is very simple. So when you get back into it, hold on. Right. Let's just take a look at where these people have been kicked out of. Right. So just after the birth of Jesus Christ per se, they've been kicked out of Rome. Egypt has taken them in, and then they were kicked out of Alexandria, Egypt. So even the North Africans were like, nah, what you're practicing is not happening over here. We don't allow it. And then they're kicked out of Jerusalem again for the same practices. Where else? Egypt yet again. There's another place where I want you to pay attention to. Okay, so right about here, right, they're kicked out of Alexandria, Egypt again. Why is this important during this time frame? What did we just say? The Dark Ages, and prior in the video, the Dark Ages took place from 5th century, early Renaissance, right, where they want to put a date to it, but the actual metaphorical rolling of the ball took place a lot earlier than that. So 5th century would be in the years 400s. Jews were expelled from Minorca. Minorca is a territory that belongs to Spain. That's Europe. So what's the translation here? The same faith practicing group of people have a long history of being kicked out of their own places, or places where they you would think they would have accepted from because of what they're practicing. And the major issue from that is the fact that they're practicing things that we know for a fact lead to an inevitable downfall, which is, from an economic standpoint, because resources is very, very important for the human species. When you're taking part in a loaning system or an interest system, you're inevitably deteriorating and siphoning more than what is agreed upon. And that is a part of the many tricks on the mind. Excuse me. So now we get back into it. Throughout time, they even provide a map. See, throughout time, they're kicked out of many places just out of Europe, from Eastern Europe all the way from Western Europe up to Lithuania as well. Let's click on it. See, yep, see. Crimea, Ottoman Empire. This is a place where they've been constantly warring for these lands and territories. Right now, this is just Egypt. Let's see if this talks about how they were, removed from Naples, southern Italy, Bavaria. Yep, that's Germany. See, multiple times. See, and they keep holding on to, the Jewish Holocaust and things of that nature. But then you have people that who ancestors were living in that land territory at that time, talking about, listen, we're not going to sit here and say some people that practice this faith didn't die. However, it's not to what the propaganda has made people to believe. And then there's a reason for it. When you go back and you get German people to actually translate the transcripts of Hitler and that party were sitting there talking about, yeah, man, this ain't the first time that this group of people have done what they've done. We didn't know it, and now come to find out, the same thing that happened in time is happening now. The completion of a circle. Truth is coming to light. Everything comes back around full circle. The same way the sun comes, or the same way the earth comes right back around full circle to the sun. 365 days from this point, we would have made a full circle. We've made, at this point, from the birth of Christ, 2,025 full circles. We're on to the 2026th full circle. And what year is this? 2025 makes 9. So I'm saying all of this to say, to now lead you into how what we're seeing in the expressed third dimension, all of this is a third dimension, which is the light spectrum, which is just 1%, right? So anything times 1 is itself, right? This is where math becomes very important. The number 9 in spirituality represents a completion, and it's not just completion, but it's completion and the restart, right? So we're going to go into this because I want to see if it talks about Russia. First group of Jews flee to North America. And now we see so many. There's a whole AIPAC party. JFK was arguably killed, and those files were just released. I think I might do a reaction into that. But we know for a fact that JFK did not agree with the Israeli party and wanted them to register as a foreign party, but because they killed him, they were able to not register, and they kept getting aid. You know, there's a lot of trickery going on that went on behind the scenes that are now being pushed to the forefront. Why? Because there's a cleansing process taking place within the universe, which directly affects us. So when you go back, the energy particles in the universe, right? And you can go back into how one of my other videos I was talking about how the magnetic poles or the magnetic field of Earth is shifting. There's a lot more energy coming into play, and that plays on your DNA the same way if you walked into a radiation field, say Chernobyl, hypothetically at the height of its radiation relinquishment, your DNA will start to denature, and you will start to see deformities in your body, or you would get cancers and things of that nature. Why? Because your genetics has been played upon by so much energy that it changed your natural state of being. You're the equivalent to your 7 on your pH scale. All right. Okay. Yep. Programs in the Russian Empire. They were kicked out of Russia, so that's 1800s. But so that's Germany. I know I'm harping on this just a little bit, but I want to show you just how far out west. Okay. Jews been removed from Russia. Yes, millions of Jews have been forced to leave Russia due to, now it says anti-Semitism and persecution. However, it's the equivalent, them throwing out anti-Semitism is the equivalent to them saying blood libel these days. The practices that these Jews were taking place in destroyed Russia, especially Moscow. Moscow is one of the largest, one of the most influential places in Russia. And the economy was destroyed. Why? Because of loaning and interest rates. And once you start that, you will never be able to keep up, you know. It's the 90s, Soviet Union. Now, I think I have a video on it, but it's all right. We are going to get into the next part of it. It's the Dark Ages. All right, so now let's talk about some of these numbers, right? In spirituality, there are certain numbers have certain meanings. And when I say spirituality, I also want you to think of the term energy. Write that down in your notes. Energy in the English language is synonymous to the word spirit. So in certain contexts, I could say in terms of energy, number 2 means wisdom or things of that nature. Now, it says here it doesn't necessarily mean that. However, AI is not human intelligence. So we're filling in the gaps where technology cannot. So right here, angel number 2 can be a powerful tool for manifesting deeper levels of understanding, wisdom, and enlightenment. The number encourages balance between physical and spiritual existence and duality. So that's where it gets wisdom from. So within that balance, you're basically saying I can apply few principles to many situations and circumstances. However, the more principles I have, because I've earned and displayed that I have the ability to apply it to many with few, if I have a lot, I can apply it to an exceptionally high amount of principles and circumstances. So now let's go through it. Number 7, right? The number 7 symbolizes completion, perfection, or wholeness. Now, why is this important? The year 2023 was the year number 7. 2024 was the year number 8. What was taking place in 2023? Let's see. Just so y'all can see, I was going to do it, but major events in 2023. Ongoing Israeli-Hamas war, record-breaking global temperatures, Thai general election, devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, Hollywood writer strike. Right, so now we see a whole lot of movies that aren't coming out. It was the perfect opportunity. Right, what does 7 mean? 7 is also denoted by the term of luck. Right, in the English. Yep. Here we go. Luck often represents the idea of positive and negative events happening in one's life are influenced by unseen forces like divine intervention, karma, or cosmic alignment, signifying a favorable or unfavorable view from a higher power, often interpreted as being in tune with the universe or spiritual energies around you. See what I'm saying? Everything comes back around full circle. I had already mentioned being in tune when you're with Trump's tie being purple, being in alignment, good and bad. But what they're saying is cosmic alignment, divine intervention is another way of saying opportunity, right? It's luck isn't just, happenstance. It's preparation, the work you've done prior to meeting your opportunity. You get to a crossroads and you get the perfect intersection where your origin is 0. Right? Completion, perfect. That is luck. So when you create your quadratic graph and you have your first, second, third, and fourth quadrants, and your origin point is 0, 0, that's perfection. Where else is there to go? Right? So now if you move out to 1, if you move your point out to 1, 1 on the X, 1 on the Y axis, you get a perfect square. You see what I'm saying? So now this is numbers showing to take place. So now after the number 7, you get the number 8. The 8 is also represented as building and destroying. Hold on. No, let me go back. Slug. Okay, yeah. The number 8, balance, new beginning, and infinity. So how do you get infinity, new beginnings? This is where you got to put some common sense into it. This is also becoming a time of common sense. All right, you hear politicians talking about it all the time, but common sense is something that has to be practiced. You get infinite beginnings when you also have infinite endings. You can't just start something and start something else and start something else. To start something else, you would have had to stop something. This is why the number 8 is shaped the way it is. And so now when you look at it, I want to give you an image of the number 8, right? Give you a nice large one. If you start at the origin of number 8 and you travel up, right? This is where you get growth. And then you get destruction when you come back down the slide, and then you restart the process of growth. Right now, we are in the early process, right? This camera icon is covering it, but we're at the transition stage from right here at the bottom of the 8, transitioning into a long process of growth. And inevitably, we will get back to a process of going back downwards, of decay, right? So what does that mean in the third dimension? In the third dimension, we are seeing now a patriarchal or a more masculine energy take over the planet, where you get more truth, honorability, discipline, integrity, and even in even in our politics, Donald Trump would then represent the masculine side of things, which would be the Republican House. Republican House does represent patriarchy. Right, and if for those that missed it, America is a patriarchal landmass. Just the nature of the landmass is rooted in truth and whatnot. So that's the number 8, and why? So now the number 8 is there. Once you get the infinite beginnings you will then inevitably transition into number 9, which is a symbol of completion, which is the end of a cycle and the beginning of another, which is still the number 8, but you're adding 1 on into it, right? So now you're at constant beginnings, but if you add 1 after the number 8, you then get 9, but to make 9, you would have had to release the number 8 to move on to start all over again. And then you take 1 away, you're back at 8. See, numbers, there's no number technically that exists outside of 0 through 9. Everything else is just another way of denoting another start place. That's why majority computers don't work off of 3s and 4s. The coding on a computer is 1s and 0s. The matrix is 1s and 0s. It's very simple, right? If you put 9 ones together, that's a 9. If you put 3 ones together, that's a 3. See what I'm saying? So what does this have to do with everything? A lot of this is now turning right back into how the energy itself, not just on the planet but in space, are taking in a major shift. So the dynamos are the process of which Earth's magnetic field is generated, right? And so the field is generated by the particles that surround us that we can't necessarily see with the naked eye, traveling in a certain path, and its position elicit a certain energy. So imagine, right? The best way I can explain this in a simple form is the Earth is traveling around the sun. The dynamos of the Earth in its winter time is now generating less heat thermal energy or ultraviolet radiation from the sun, so the planet is a lot cooler. See how it works out. And now a lot of this is changing because where we're at in space and time, the energies are shifting. We're starting to get more solar flares. The magnetic field is shrinking in certain parts, so more energy is getting in and it doesn't get out, and then it keeps cycling through the planet and whatnot. All of this has an effect because now if this is happening to the planet and there are these particles that are energized, charged, and have specific functions and jobs on the planet, they're also passing through us at the same time, and that plays on our genetics. So this is where you also get higher degrees of intelligence. Why? Because we have the expression for it within the third dimension, which would be these technological devices where we get AI, right? AI, we now are capable of having artificial intelligence because we have a heightened state of organic intelligence, OI. And with that, so, right, this is why I also try to tell people a lot of people don't understand, especially when they're religious. Religion and science do work hand in hand, but it's not so much science, it's alchemy. And the alchemic version of religion is God. It's the phonetics is almost the same. However, the intent behind it is very different. God. There's the energy elicted, the potential energy being built up is expressed kinetically in a much different manner if you replace the O with the A and the A with the O, and that gives you, right, a much more simpler understanding of the interchangeability from alchemy and religion. So, right, this is where you get spirit and energy, both synonyms to each other. God, both meaning the same thing, however, represented in the third dimension as two different things, but yet holding true to the same principles, then mean that they're synonymous. So, right, what does this have to do with everything? All that information that comes back together as it flows through you, as you accumulate this energy, is then showing that you're reaching a level of perfection, which would, in religious sense, would be called Christ conscious. You're the Christ. There's nothing more perfect in religion than Christ, or in this Western hemisphere, you say Christ. In the Eastern hemisphere, I think the predominant religion would be Allah. Right? There's nothing more perfect than that, and that is expressed through consciousness. Why? Because we are made in some image of it in some way, shape, or form, and that would be the number 7. Christ consciousness, though, is represented by the number 33. But when you look at the spine in the human body, it is shaped like what? The number 1. So when you add 3, 3, 1, you get 7. So now, what else? Is there anything else I want to go over? Nah, I mean, so yeah, this is just another thing already showing. Could have showed this earlier, but oh shoot, I don't know why I was muted. I hope didn't miss too much of that. But yeah, this is just another thing showing what I was already talking about, how letters are definitely symbols, right? And symbols express certain meanings to the human experience and whatnot. So I hope you enjoyed all of this. I hope that last part wasn't muted too much. Uh, there was a lot of information. I'm glad I did this at the time to do it. Give a like, comment, share, subscribe. Don't be afraid to donate. Send a gift to the Cash App. Add me on Instagram at b.o.m.experience. I've just shown you in real time how you break down these energies and how it leads you to go, or how you're able to use it to understand what's coming next in the human experience or next in the line of time and whatnot. Maybe I'll do some more breakdowns on time itself with Metatron and all of those things. But, I think this was a good start, for wrapping up all the things that we've taken and observed with a lot of the other videos I've spoken about and just giving it showing you a nice breakdown on how these things intertwine together. I did want to talk about one more thing. Yeah, the how we're seeing all these planes starting to crash and whatnot. A lot of this is not necessarily unintentional. It's like the energy itself is at play. So, like I said, the particles are more and more energy particles are coming into the planet and whatnot, and it changes the technology in which we're able to operate on. So, when you have electrical devices working at certain levels of the atmosphere, there are certain concentrations of energy, right? So with the higher up you go, the thinner the concentration is, or the lower the concentration of the oxygen is. Why? Because we're going closer into space where there is no oxygen. That same principle is applied for other atoms or molecules that are in the atmosphere right now. And so these electrical devices are failing at these altitudes. And it's hard to gain control back over them once they fail because there's a major shift in the electrical interactions within the technology. And so another way to understand this is your EMP device, your electromagnetic pulse device, right? Your electromagnetic pulse device will stop this. If one went off in a very close distance to me, it would shut off this stream. It would shut off my laptop. It would shut off my internet router. It would even shut off my phone. I wouldn't even be able to get phone calls. That is arguably the same thing that's happening right now, just from a cosmic perspective, because again, these energies, and like I showed before, these energies, right, are coming in at much higher concentrations. Even though we can't see with the naked eye, there's more UV rays coming into Earth's atmosphere. There's more X-rays. There's more radio waves, right? People are listening to the radio in their cars and whatnot. There's a pull on that. And all of that plays into what we are seeing in real time. This is why we're also seeing the conversation of unmanned aircrafts, drones, and then there's also been talks of Black Hawk helicopters being turned into almost drone helicopters, but really remote controlled helicopters. So there's a lot at play right now. There's a lot of energy going on. You got to stay prayed up so you can take in these energies. You can calm the mind. You can allow yourself to be receptive to the energies that's around you. And again, I think this is a good start for this channel. There's a lot of other people out there doing the work. They have their translations of it, but ultimately their translations are saying the same thing for the most part. Or they're speaking towards the same principle. It's just they're coming from a different perspective or a different direction. Small nuances of things. But overall, this was fun. I appreciated this. I'm on Instagram at b.o.m.experience. Give a like, comment, share, subscribe. Certainly share this. Send the link out to those you love. This is a time where you got to do the work to keep up. there's really not much else to it. You don't do the work, you will get left behind. Nothing is slowing down. The planet doesn't slow down as much as we would like to, lend a helping hand. Sometimes a helping hand is still being moved further and further away, even though it's still stretched back. But yes, this was fun. Y'all take care. Ciao.